For Penn being as large as it is, I think that we do a really great job of giving you a community feel that's makes it a lot smaller than it really is. From when you come up the escalator and you see Joan sitting at the information desk, and she comes from behind the desk and approaches you because she knows that you may look like you're a little lost and you need to get some direction, to the women in the parking lots who make sure that folks know where they're going when they get into the elevator bank. There's so many points throughout the course of a patient's walk through Penn where we do try to really kind of shrink it for them so that it does feel like they're just going into a doctor's office. It takes away some of the scariness of being in such a large place.
There's a complex web of people that come together to take care of one patient in one room. Everyone from the environmental services to the pharmacy to the doctors and the other nurses. We all work together.
There's so many people that are passionate about what they do and are committed to the patient's well-being.
Everybody at Penn Medicine really has one common goal, which is to provide an exceptional patient care and also an exceptional patient experience.
So Steve is a patient of mine. He has stage 3 melanoma. So that's melanoma that has traveled to lymph nodes. And he came in with this honestly scary diagnosis.
We both said that's the place where we wanted to go. We wanted to get the best treatment, so we said we're going to Penn right off the bat.
He made a list early on in his course of his goals, milestones that he wanted to achieve. He wanted to see his son graduate. He had very clear bucket list, and I think he has a different name for it, about what he wanted to live for. The first time he shared it with us, we all had tears. It was very, very moving.
I got a call from one of my residents saying that the trauma service was admitting a patient who was hit by a car, a young guy, healthy, with some kind of head injury.
I don't remember it, but people told me later that I landed about 30 yards down the road in a handicap spot. The car didn't break into me, it hit me at full speed.
He had been taken emergently to the operating room. He had had a craniotomy done because he had a severe head injury. He had a blown pupil. He had a very bad pelvic fracture, and he had a bad tibia fracture. It was unclear if he was going to make it past that day or the next day. His injuries were fairly significant, particularly to his head.
The procedure could have been quite a bit more dramatic than it ended up being. They were forthright in describing perhaps cutting off into the side of the nose, or in a more extreme case, having to remove part of the cranium and go in a much more ambitious way. So I didn't quite know what I was going to wake up to post-surgery. My wife had had a previous experience with another healthcare system, and it was so traumatic from the moment she was brought into the hospital for what turned out to be a 3-day stay. Every little thing being a challenge. So we were a bit cynical going into this situation.
I had 2 terminal illnesses. I have sarcoidosis, which is the lungs. It's at the end stage. And then to have been diagnosed with cancer. You come here, they explain things to you. The nurses are nice. When you go in for proton, they talk to you. They make you feel comfortable and relaxed. You see the machine, you know what you're up against. And they try to make you just feel real good about it because you're already sick. The people here are just very pleasant, and they make you feel so much better.
Several years ago, my father received a prostate cancer diagnosis at a community urologist, and we decided to bring him to Penn for a second opinion. And honestly, start to finish, it was just an amazing experience. It started with the amount of time that the physician took explaining everything to my father, and the surgeon actually even made a point of having his team set my father up with an appointment with a radiation oncologist. There were no egos. It was just all about making sure we had the most information to make the best treatment plan for my dad. Everything just was handled seamlessly, and as a result, my dad transferred all of his care to Penn.
We can't afford to be arrogant. We have to service the people that we're here to service. And we have to do it in a warm and friendly way while we're providing the care they're here to receive.
From the time you enter, you feel like at home. There's always somebody greeting you, making you feel comfortable.
It was a horrible time. He just wasn't feeling well at all, and I was exhausted from taking care of him and keeping our family life going. You know, it was always nice to see a smile, and you know, you kind of look forward to seeing the people.
Every morning when I started radiation treatment, Officer Nelson, who was the coolest individual, he was like, "Hey, good morning." And I said, "Well, I'm here for radiation." And he said, "Well, what day, you know?" And I said, "Well, this is my first." And we just got into a neat little conversation about what that meant. And he sent me off, and that just became a daily ritual. And every single day I'd give him an update, and it was a nice way to come in. Then I'd go into the radiology floor, and these two wonderful receptionists were there, remembered my name from the second day on. And I was like, how'd they do that?
Everybody there, "Oh yeah, you're Christopher's sister." They knew who I was. And they knew that we were just as traumatized in a different way as Christopher was traumatized of having the cancer.
The technicians there were just like, "Hey, how you doing? Okay, well, you know, you want to choose the sort of music?" And I'm like, I hadn't thought of that. You know, because for me it was head and neck, and they would bolt you down. I was like, I could be stuck with country music for 10 minutes and not be able to change the state. They were like, "No, whatever you want." And just one thing after the other.
And as I come back now for visits and scans, and no matter what it is, it's a very good experience. Everybody is just so nice. They make you feel so good, so pleasant, that you don't mind coming to the hospital. You don't mind coming to appointments.
The first question I asked after they told me what happened was, would I ever walk again? And he said, yes, it'll take about 6 to 9 months of really hard therapy, but like, you can do it. And then I kind of like had a little sigh of relief, like, all right, like it's okay. And then I asked, like, would I ever play lacrosse again? Because that had just been the focus of my life up until that point. And he was just like, oh yeah, you'll wear a helmet, like it'll be fine. And then like I got that in my head, like, oh, I'll be able to do that again. So I was just like, okay, 6 to 9 months, like I can do this. It won't be so hard.
We want to provide the best clinical care possible, but part of that is really having someone be personable to you. I mean, we need people that are caring and giving to work here, and dealing with such a tragic disease. It's really important to have those people that really focus on the person themselves instead of just seeing each patient as a number or a disease.
So when people come to see us here at Penn Medicine, chances are they're going through one of the hardest times in their life. Whether it's a cancer diagnosis or a long-term disease, sometimes for people we're kind of their last-ditch effort at hope.
I try to understand that when they come in that they're sick and they don't feel well, or they're stressed because of an illness or an illness of a family member. So I try to empathize with them, I think.
The patient, they make you look at life different. And you see what they're going through, and then you put yourself in their position and say, you know what? That's why I do what I do best. Because you come in and you meet people like, hey, they have a life before they come here. So you try to make them feel as much comfortable. I can't sort of explain because it's good. Yeah. Yeah.
If it wasn't for Penn Medicine, I would have been dead, or I would have been brain dead, or I would have been in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. I was Humpty Dumpty. I was so broken, and they fixed all of it. Penn Medicine gave me my life back.
And you look at somebody like him, who at one point had a severe traumatic brain injury, and we were worried about survivorship, and now on the other end, he is a well-functioning, well-versed, well-spoken young man who has his whole future ahead of him. And then I take a step back and I wonder what happens to a patient like him if he doesn't end up here. How do they manage his head injury? Because I'll tell you, the neurosurgeons that night saved his life. Or how does he get resuscitated? Because the general surgeons that day saved his life. And they did it day after day after day, and they didn't give up on him. And then maybe down the road, once all that's squared away, you have somebody from the orthopedic service fix him, and if they don't fix him right, he's not running on the beach or doing yoga or getting on his elliptical and getting back to his normal self. And so I just wonder what happens to these patients if they don't come here.
Trust that what you're doing is noticed, because one senses when one is dealing with a more traumatic disease, senses do become heightened. Every little thing starts to be noticed where it hasn't before. You are apt to want to be tuned into the kindness of others, and it's so readily available.
When you get to the end of your treatment, you ring the bell. And I said, I'm going to ring this bell that William Penn is going to hear it. That's how loud I'm going to ring it, because I was so happy and thankful and blessed of all the good treatment, the help, and the medical attention I got, and the pleasantness that helped me through this whole ordeal that I had here at Penn.
I'm humbled and honored by the opportunity to take care of people during their time of need, to be able to impact that patient experience, knowing that the science and the clinical care is the best in the world. To be able to make sure that the patient experience from beginning to end matches that is really what makes me keep going. That makes me excited to do a better job every day, and it makes me want to help inspire my teams to do a better job too. And that's true.
The impact that you have on people's lives is tremendous. And for me, what you did for me and my family, by allowing me to just continue to be part of the family. So I thank you all. So the one thing, I have a quote that I picked up: never forget that you are one of a kind. Never forget that if there weren't any need for you and all your uniqueness to be on this earth, you wouldn't be here in the first place. And never forget, no matter how overwhelming life challenges and problems seem to be, that one person can make a difference in the world. In fact, it is always because of one person that all the changes that matter in the world come about. So be that one person.